Distribution of ocean temperature. Here, temperatures may differ in accordance with latitude. When latitude changes, when you move upwards and downwards, your temperature will changes. The highest temperatures is recorded between 10-degree latitude on either side of the equator. So, nearly 10 degree of latitude, your highest temperature is recorded. The average temperature here is 27 degrees Celsius. As you move away from the equator, temperature decreases considerably. So near to the equator area, the temperature is very high. Why? Because the sunlight is directly fallen to the equator. When you move upwards and downwards, your temperature goes on decreasing. Why? Because the sunlight falls very less when compared to the center, that is equator. The temperatures falls to about 10 degree in the mid latitudes and up to -2 degree in the polar regions. These are the North Polar and South Polar regions. What is the reason for the variation in temperature over different latitudinal zones? What might be the reason? Yeah, I have told. The variation in the amount of insolation received on the earth is the major reason for this. You know what is insolation? The sun waves, that is sunlight is received by the earth is known as insolation, isn't it? Similarly, variation in the amount of insolation is the main reason for the difference in the temperatures. That means in equator region, it will receive more sunlight, or the insolation is very high when compared to the both poles, north and south poles. Clear? The ocean currents and winds also influence the temperature of the seawater. So variations in temperature you can see. Next one, salinity of seawater. Salinity means what? Your salt. Sea water is salty. You all have tasted the seawater, isn't it? It is very salty. The average amount of saltiness of seawater is almost 3.5%. That means average amount of salt which is presented in seawater is 3.5%. Out of any amount of water, nearly 3.5% is salt. This water can be purified by separating the salt from it. You are using salt for making curries, dish, then other tasty items, and so where the salt is done, the salt is manufactured or made using this seawater. The concentration of salt content in seawater is known as salinity. Amount of salt content which is present in seawater, then that is known as salinity. The concentration of salt content in seawater is known as salinity. It is expressed as the grams of salt present in 1000 grams of water. What grams of salt is present in 1000 grams of water? Then it is expressed as salinity. The average salinity of water is almost 35 parts or 35% of 1000 water. That is 1000, and it is recorded as 350 by 1000. That is 35 grams of salt is present in 1000 grams of seawater. Salinity is not uniform across oceans, isn't it? It may differ. In one area it will be very salty, in another area it will be less salty. What might be the reasons for the variation in salinity? One is salinity will be more in landlocked seas. Where landlocked seas, that means where all the three sides, if the land is locked, covered for the sea, then the salinity will be very high. Why? Because the water content will be very low there. Salinity increases in areas of high evaporation. Where high evaporation takes place, there the salinity will be high. Salinity decreases in areas where snow melt water reaches in large quantity. For example, in Antarctica, no, there the snow will melt and it reaches to the sea. There the salinity will be very low. Why? Because when ice melt and it will become changes into water. When water content is more, the salt content will be very few in that area. So the salinity will decreases. Salinity decreases at river mouths. Why river mouths means river is a fresh water, isn't it? When it reaches to the sea, what happens? The mixture of this fresh water and salt water will occur. When this occurs, the content of water will be more when compared to salt. So there the salinity decreases. Heavy rainfall leads to reduction in salinity. When rainfall, it is also a fresh water. When rainfall is very high, the salinity will also become less. Salinity varies from ocean to ocean and at different depths. The equatorial regions record high salinities as compared to polar regions. Why? Why? Because here you can see the second point. Salinity increases in areas of high evaporation. When temperature is high, there the evaporation will be also high. So the salinity will be high there. Why the salinity increases in landlocked seas? Why? Why? Because the sea is covered by three sides of land or four sides might be. So what happens if the land is locked? The water content will be very low, but the salt content will be very high. So the salinity increases. Why salinity less at river mouth? I explained. That means when fresh water reaches the sea, there the water content will be more, salt content will be less. Density of seawater. The density of seawater is not uniform everywhere, isn't it? It is not equal everywhere. It may changes. This is due to the variations in salinity and temperature of seawater. What might be the variations for density of seawater? One is the main reason is difference in salinity and difference in temperature of seawater. Density decreases as temperature increases. Density of what happens? Decreases and when temperature increases, and it increases as salinity also increases. So here your density and temperature is vice versa. When temperature increases, density decreases. When density increases, your temperature will also decrease. But in case salinity, what happens? Salinity and your density is equal. When salinity increases, your density will also increase. So you have understood that the temperature, salinity and the density of seawater are not uniform everywhere. These variations lead to movements of seawater. Let us look into the movements of seawater and the reasons. Movements of seawater. Main movement you will see when you go to a sea. That is waves. Yes. The up and down motion of water along the surface of the sea is called sea waves. You have seen once it goes up and down, along with the water along with the surface of the sea. That is known as waves. So, yes, you can see once it is up, down, up, down, up. So, from one wave to another wave, what is the distance? That is known as wavelength. Then from the bottom till the top of the wave, then that is known as wave height. Then the top of the wave is known as crest and the bottom of the wave is known as throw. You can go here.